Online marketing for small business. Why do you have a website? Now, I gave this presentation recently at a breakfast meeting for a business circle of small business people, and I wanted to capture the little speech I gave because I thought it had some quite interesting questions in it. The main one of which is that I want to challenge you with the question, why do you have a website? Now, I asked the people who were there three questions when I started. The first of these was, who has an email capture on their website to capture the name and address of anybody who, or the name and email address of anybody who visits the site. I also asked them who had a Facebook page or a Facebook group for their business, and also who had an active Twitter account for their business. And I got a mixed result, as you'd expect from any group of small business people. But I would ask you to think yourself how advanced your online marketing activities are. And these three questions were designed as a barometer of that. Now, the question arose originally several years ago when I was speaking to my partners, and I want to tell you the story of exactly what happened because I think it's really germane, and it's a really key exercise in what I would call brochureware. I basically asked my partners one day why we had a website, and the response was, well, because we have to have a website. Yes, I said, but who comes to the website? Don't know. Where do they come from? No idea. What are they looking for when they get to the website? We haven't got a clue. Do they find what they're looking for? Do we record any information about them while they're there? Do we know whether they're happy with the result and they go away satisfied? Do we have any engagement with them while they're on our website? And every time I ask these questions about the people who are apparently coming to our absolutely essential website, I got the same answer. I don't know. No, we don't. It was a complete blank. And so basically we were generating this traffic. People were coming to our website, and that was it. It was like they were reading a brochure. So I did, at the end of this conversation, I said, well, so why exactly do we have a website? Because I couldn't see the purpose of it. It didn't get us any further forward with our customers. Now, who am I to talk about this? Well, my name is John Colley. I'm a very experienced corporate finance advisor, but I'm also a very experienced online marketer, blogger. My online brand is the 6 Minute Strategist, where I like to deal in sixes. I take one issue, I break it into 6 points, and I try and explain it in under 6 minutes. And that's the center of my philosophy. Now, I'm an educator. I've got quite a number of online courses with over 20,000 students. I'm a podcaster. My podcast has had over 500,000 downloads and growing all the time. I'm also a blogger, and you can gather from this, I'm a public speaker. So that's a little bit about me. You can find out more about me at my website, jbdcolley.com. Now, let's move on. There are three keys to online marketing for small business, and I want to take you through each of these three in turn. The first is all about audience. The second is about content, and then the third is the why behind the audience and the content. Let me explain. First of all, you need to understand who your audience is, but just as importantly, you need to understand where they are. So where are you going to find these people online? And you need to have a very clear idea of the sorts of people that they are, almost down to creating avatars for them. But, you need to understand who is likely to be interested in buying your products and services, whatever they happen to be. Now, the next thing you need to be very clear with these people is what pain you are addressing, what problem you are solving. There are only two reasons people search online. They either go and search for a solution to something they're struggling with, or they look for entertainment. Now, you can deliver both, but fundamentally, if you're in business, you're all about solving the pain, sorting out the problem, answering the question. And so your content needs to address this, and you need to be looking for the audience for whom you have the answers. So let's move on to what this means in terms of a thinking process as to how you deal with their customers. Now, they say that every person that you have touch with online needs to have at least 7 touch points with you before they're going to buy from you. I'd like to represent it a slightly different way, and this is not unique, but I've got some I think quite unique thinking coming up. But basically, they need to be able to find you, then they need to know, like, and trust you. And only after they get through that process will they pay you. And hopefully they have a really wonderful experience with you, and they will then evangelize you. So you need to think, what content are you creating out there that you can start this process with? So you need to have a content strategy that you think through. Now, there are essentially 4 types of content that you can create. I create all 4. You can create text, and a good example of that is through blogging, but writing articles and obviously writing papers and whatever else it might be. Audio, podcasting, fantastic way of building your reputation and building an audience's knowledge of you. Not that difficult to put together, really easy to distribute, very low cost, fabulous way of creating very engaging content. Video, slightly more difficult. As you can see, I can make videos very straightforwardly. I've got a very straightforward and easy to manage setup. I don't need a big studio with lots of lights and all the rest of it, but video is hugely compelling. It just requires a little bit more effort. And then finally, images are really good if you put them on the right site, providing your audience is there. Places like Pinterest and Instagram are the 2 leading ones at the moment. Then you can, again, find an audience and bring them back to your site and then start engaging with them. So that's the power of content. But let me tell you a story to illustrate why it works so well. And the person I want to tell you about, is a gentleman called Marcus Sheridan. Now, Marcus Sheridan's online brand is the Sales Line. He's a very good content salesman. He shows you how to use content to sell your products and services. And Marcus had a very simple problem. He has a real life swimming pools business, and he makes concrete swimming pools. Now, the problem with these is that they're only there are quite a lot of limitations to swimming pools, and people who are coming to him to buy a swimming pool did have a lot of questions, and a lot of these questions actually put them off when they got the answers, put them off to buying the swimming pool. So things like the complexity of managing all the chemicals and keeping the swimming pool clean and free of fungus and everything else. The cost of running it, the cost of installing it, the disruption involved in putting it in, the limitations on size and where they could put it. All these were issues which made his sale quite complicated. And he found that when he sent his salesmen out to respond to inquiries, they only closed 1 in 5 of their inquiries. So he had all these guys running around all over his state trying to sell these swimming pools, and they had a very, very low close rate. So one day he sat down with his team and he said, look, we're going to turn this on its head. We're going to do this a different way. And he made them write down lots of questions that they got asked all the time, FAQs, if you like, by potential customers about swimming pools. And then he told them, great, now I want you to write answers to these questions. And he took all these answers, he organized them, he put them in an ebook, and he said, now when you get an inquiry, send them the ebook. And then follow up with them, and then say, if they want to then have a meeting with you, then you're happy to arrange the meeting. And when people made the inquiry, the first question they would be asked is, have you downloaded our ebook? Which, of course, he downloaded against an email sign up. So he collected their email address while he was at it. But he basically said, I will not send anybody to see you until you have read our ebook cover to cover, because it'll put you in a much better position to understand whether you want to buy a swimming pool. Now what happened was he actually got to start with fewer inquiries, and he sent his guys out to those inquiries, fewer inquiries that actually then made an appointment, but he closed 80% of the appointments. So his business suddenly had more capacity, and it was closing 4 times as many deals as it had done in the past, purely through the power of content and providing his audience, for his potential customers, with the information they needed in order to make a judgment about the purchase they wanted to make from him. Absolutely brilliant. And of course, once the word got round, people would talk about it, evangelize him, he'd get more inquiries, more people read the book, and his sales grew that way. So that is the salutary lesson about how to do it, as opposed to how not to do it, which is what I talked to you a little bit earlier. Now, the next step in this is, having gone through the audience and having understood the content, you now actually have to understand the why behind these. And what I'm saying is, you have to understand the purpose of the content you're creating and what it's going to do with your audience. Now, we talked about Find Me, and at this basic level, that is just, people being able to find the content that you've created. The next level down, where they get to know you, is where you're making more of an effort to provide them with information. So this is where they're coming up against some of your marketing, whether you're sending out email autoresponders, or whether you're putting out blog articles, or putting up videos on YouTube, whatever it is, they're responding to some of that, and they're beginning to get to know you. Now, I believe you actually need to take it into a more complex phase in this, and you might need to start to build communities. Now, you can build those communities around your website. That's a great place to do it. But you can also build these communities on places like Facebook. And I'm a great advocate for Facebook groups. I've got my own Facebook group there, the Online Learning Club. Go and find it. I'll make sure there's a link on the page. Definitely come and join the Online Learning Club on Facebook with me, and join the wonderful people. I'm sharing all my stuff about online learning there. Now, once you've got that club building, then they start to get to like you, because they see you as being the figure who has the authority, who has the expertise. And as that happens, then they start to trust you. And of course, part of the things that you're doing within your community is engagement. You're actually getting involved with them, having conversations with them, sharing ideas with them, helping them out with their problems for free long before you try and sell them anything. And that's how you build the trust. Now, another aspect of this, and this is one of the reasons I do my podcast, is that this also, as you're doing this process, starts to build and enhance your reputation. And reputation enhancement is a critical phase of this whole process. And my podcast, which gives me the ability to interview and network with lots of interesting people, a side benefit, establishes me as an authority figure in the area that I've chosen to launch it in, which is online learning. So you've got these levels, and you can see how they tie into the Find Me, Know Me, Like Me, Trust Me, etc. And then, only then, can you offer them something to buy. So you can offer them either a real product, or whatever your business sells, or you can offer them an information product, which is a lot of what I do online through my courses. So you've built them through this process, and you finally are in a position to offer them something where they'll be much more likely to purchase it, because it doesn't work if they simply turn up on your website and you try and flog them something. So what I'm explaining to you is the importance of connecting your online marketing activities with a purpose behind each activity. And that becomes a marketing funnel. That becomes a process where you draw your potential audience in, and then gradually you convert them until they pop out the bottom as customers who then want to pay you money and evangelize you. And of course, the more people you get in the top, and the more effectively you do it, the wider your funnel can be, and the more customers you get at the bottom, and conversions means sales, means cash. So let's recap. You need to understand who and where your customers are. You need to have a clear strategy for the content you're creating, and the purpose of that content. So why are you creating a podcast? Reputation enhancement. Why have you set up a community group in Facebook? Because I want to build community. Why are you writing your blogs? Because you want people to be able to find your content and get to know and like you. So you have all these different things, but you need to connect them up to move them from one to the other. So they find your blog, they get a link to a video. They go to your video, they get a link to your Facebook group. They engage in your Facebook group. You then perhaps have a chance to post them an offer. And so you link all these things up. You then create a funnel, and because you're doing it with it, you're doing the whole process in an engaged way, and you're doing it in a gradual processional way, then you will convert people who originally land on you and find you into people who will pay you and evangelize you. So, to summarize, I come back to the question I have in the first place, and this is the question I want you to think about, and that is, why do you have a website? So if you want to learn more from me, my name is John Colley. My website is jbdcolley.com. You can find out lots of information about me there. And I look forward to seeing you as well, perhaps in my Facebook group, the Online Learning Club. And I'll make sure there are links to all those on the page in front of you. So that's it for this little webinar, Online Marketing for Small Business. Ask yourself, why do you have a website?